Excellent. Commissioner Grove, over to you.
All right. Hello, everybody. Good to see you all, and happy Friday. Thanks for joining us for this roundtable on reskilling in Minnesota and the launch of a new platform we're starting here at Deed focused on finding Minnesotans good jobs now. My name is Steve Grow. I'm the Commissioner of the Department of Employment and Economic Development here in Minnesota, and I'm joined by an esteemed panel who you'll meet in just a moment for what we hope will be a very exciting and productive discussion. I'm co-hosting this roundtable with my friend and colleague, Commissioner Dennis Olson, who leads the Department of Office of Higher Education, which you'll hear from in just a moment. And really, this panel, this discussion is a part of a series of conversations that we're starting this year as Minnesota turns its eye toward recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. And that conversation is addressing a whole host of issues. We kicked it off a few days ago with the Lieutenant Governor focused on women in the workforce. We'll focus on a variety of themes in the coming weeks, from inclusive economic growth to reskilling our state to creating good jobs. And we are thrilled to get ideas and feedback and guidance from our leaders here today who span a whole host of industries and institutions and roles. So excited for this conversation. Thanks for joining us. Offer a couple of thoughts of context up front and then turn it over to Dennis to do the same, and then we'll dive into our panel. I just say that the reason we're focused on reskilling at Deed right now and at OHE as well and across state government is that we're in a really unique recession where there's sort of a paradox out there in terms of how this job market has unfolded. On the one hand, you have a lot of people displaced from their work and collecting unemployment insurance. And on the other hand, you've got a large number of firms who simply can't hire fast enough. And that's a challenge for Minnesota companies. It's a challenge for our system. And there's just some inefficiencies in the workforce development market that we think we can fix if we work together with business and government and education coming together to really help Minnesotans find good jobs now. Here at Deed, we have launched a new platform at careerforcemn.com/goodjobsnow that has a ton of resources on just what's available out there. We want Minnesotans to know what they can pursue and what jobs are hiring and what training might be required to get there. We've also reshaped our entire Career Force Center apparatus to turn them into proactive call centers. So we are calling every unemployment insurance recipient in the state and helping them understand what's available in our market. And then last, we're looking for unique partnerships. How can we help business and government work together on this journey? Many people, when they look at our job market, may have to consider a job opportunity that's not the same as the one that they left. And that idea of reskilling or retraining might be hard. And there's certainly a lot of folks that we know are kind of waiting for the pandemic to be over to consider a new industry. But the reason we're focused on this with such urgency is that the economy was already changing really rapidly before this all began. And we already knew before the pandemic hit that large percentages of our workforce are going to have to shift into new occupations in the next decade. And a lot of executives in business were telling us and told national organizations as well that they saw a lot of skills gaps in the market. So this is a topic that is not just pandemic related, but really it's about the future of our state's economy and our workforce. So we're excited for this discussion. I'm going to turn over to my colleague, Commissioner Olson, for some thoughts, and then we're eager to hear from our panel. So Dennis, over to you.
Thanks, Commissioner, and hello, everybody. Once again, Dennis Olson, the Commissioner of the Minnesota Office of Higher Education. And, I just want to start out by noting that, Minnesotans, that we know, that we've heard from, that we see in the data, that are in most danger of suffering long-term economic harm from the pandemic are those with a high school degree or less. And we know that higher education and training opportunities are really the key to finding new workforce opportunities that'll provide some stability for Minnesotans and, of course, better pay and future growth opportunities. We're excited about the governor's budget, the COVID-19 response budget this year, and he's proposed a new workforce stabilization grant program. And it really gets to the heart of what Commissioner Grove was talking about. The grants that the governor's proposing will help Minnesotans whose jobs have been impacted by the pandemic as well as some of our lower income students prepare for a new career at either a public or a tribal college or university. And, the grants that the governor's proposing are really focused on high need, high vacancy, high value jobs. And so we know that this program will also work to help fill some of the workforce shortages in our state. It's a $35 million investment, and really, it's focused on providing tuition-free and affordable access to our public systems, our colleges and universities. It's aiming to help folks that have been impacted by the pandemic with incomes up to $80,000, as well as students up to $50,000. And we're looking at impacting potentially 20,000 people a year here in Minnesota, provide them with an opportunity to really come back and either finish a program, earn a new credential, earn something that makes them more marketable to be well positioned to enter or re-enter the workforce. And so we're really excited about that. I will pose some questions later on in the discussion to our higher ed leaders in particular that are on the call today, but just really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks, Commissioner Grove, for extending the invite. Glad to be here.
Great. Thanks, Commissioner Olson. Well, let's introduce our panel for today. We're thrilled to have a great group of leaders with us, and I'll call your name, and if you can say your name and your organization and title, that'd be great. We'll start with Ann Kilzer.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ann Kilzer, and I am the director of the Hennepin Carver Workforce Development Board, which is one of 16 workforce development boards across the state.
Great. Welcome, Ann. Let's go to Terry Galswick.
Good afternoon, and it's a pleasure to be joining you today. I'm Terry Galswick, and I serve as the president of Minnesota West Community and Technical College in Southwest Minnesota. And in context of this meeting today, I also serve as a board member of the Southwest Private Industry Council. So it's a pleasure to be here.
Great, welcome. Let's go to Mark Erdahl.
Well, good afternoon. My name is Mark Erdahl. I'm the president CEO of Red Wing Shoe Company in Red Wing, Minnesota.
Welcome. How about Dr. John Pryor?
Good afternoon, John Pryor. I'm the president of Essentia Health East Market. Glad to be here.
Welcome. Tim Rice.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me here. I am Tim Rice. I'm president and CEO of Lakewood Health System in Staples, Minnesota.
Great. Let's go next to Pam Rode.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us today. I'm Pam Rode. I'm an HR business partner at Sears Aircraft in Duluth.
Welcome. Narita Hughes.
Good afternoon. I'm Narita Hughes with North Hennepin Community College. I'm the Dean of Business Technology, Career and Workforce Development.
Welcome, Narita. Jeff Tollefson.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jeff Tollefson. I serve as the president of the Minnesota Technology Association.
Welcome, Jeff. And last but not least, Sam Heimlich.
Hey, y'all. My name is Sam Heimlich. I'm a business representative for the North Central States Regional Council of Carpenters.
Excellent. Well, welcome, everybody. I'll get us started, and we'll just make this a conversation, so feel free to interject or pose your own questions as we go. I think we'll just, to get things kicked off, start with our business leaders. Mark, why don't we go to you first? What are you seeing in your hiring market right now? Tell us about the market right now for talent and for labor for Red Wing Shoes.
Yeah, so just a little bit of background. We're a manufacturer, a wholesaler, and a retailer worldwide. And in Minnesota, we have two manufacturing facilities. We have a tannery and we have a footwear plant in Red Wing, Minnesota. We also have a warehouse there. So we have about 600 people. And we are struggling right now to find really good people that want to come and work in our manufacturing facilities. You know, we're growing right now, so that poses opportunities, but we're also struggling to retain people and to attract really good people. So right now, we've got about 50 plus openings right now. And we do have some retention issues because there's a lot of people that are coming in and they're moving out because there's other opportunities to move towards. So those are the things that we're seeing right now within our market. So we're doing a lot of things internally, and we've got a lot of ideas that we can work on with all of you. And I think the other thing that we see is it's not only attracting people, but it's retaining people, and it's also attracting people that want to come and work in the trades. So I think it's not only reskilling people and making sure they've got the capabilities to work for us, but it's also getting people interested in working in the trades and coming to work in that kind of manufacturing environment.
That's helpful to hear. What are some of the incentives or, I don't know, creative things you've had to do to try to retain folks or attract them if they hadn't thought of a career at Red Wing before?
Some of the things that we're doing just to get people interested in the trades is we've done some things at a local level. So the Learn and Earn program, which is a Minnesota state program, Barb Haley, our congressperson, was very instrumental in getting that going. We have a Winger Flight Path program, and both these are geared at high school students to get them interested in coming to work in manufacturing and working with us. Nationally, we've got something called the Crew, which are people that love Red Wing boots, and they talk a lot about it, and they actually promote the trades. And we've actually brought them to Red Wing and Bloomington and brought them into high schools to talk to kids about the opportunities of moving into trades. And then women in the workforce is another one that we're really focusing on. We think that's a big opportunity. And then we also do something just to publicize working in the trades. We have something called the Wall of Honor, where we publicize. It's a great thing to do to work in the trades and work in manufacturing. So those are some of the things we're doing to attract people. Once we get people in the door, we have a number of internal training programs that we're doing. We're looking at virtual reality as a possible new training mechanism right now. Automation is something that we're looking at a lot, not to eliminate jobs, but really to augment jobs and be able to fill the voids that we need. And part of that is we've got a relationship with the Southeast Minnesota Technical College in Red Wing, where there's a new mechatronics program, and we have 5 individuals going through that program right now. So all those things are kind of geared towards attracting people, training people once they get in the door. And then even on the hiring side, we're looking at hiring differently too. And we're looking at, with our business making footwear, it's a bit of a craft, it's a bit of a science, but it's hard work. But we're looking at hiring people that might have more of a crafty background, right? Maybe they've restored tractors, or they have some kind of a craft background, that they have attention to detail, that we would say they might be a great person to come in and work in our manufacturing facilities. So doing a lot of different things on a number of fronts.
Yeah, really interesting. Let's open up to other business leaders in the call. John, Tim, Pam, others. What is the hiring market like in your industries? And are there things you're able to do to maybe attract a candidate that you might not usually attract, whether they're from another industry or, they might be somewhat curious about yours, curious what you're seeing?
Well,
Hi, this is Pam. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Pam.
Sorry.
No, you go ahead.
Okay, thanks. We're in a similar position that we are in a growing phase. We have about 1,500 total employees, 1,000 of which are here in our manufacturing facility in Duluth. And we have over 200 jobs posted right now, most of those here in Duluth. And so we're looking for all kinds of people, our technicians to make our airplanes, so manufacturing positions. We've got engineers across all levels of discipline, manufacturing engineers, electrical systems, IT technical jobs. So we've got a variety of things, but definitely we're in growth. So similar that we're trying to attract people to our manufacturing environment. So we're really promoting that we have an on-the-job training. So people don't have to have aviation experience or necessarily manufacturing experience. We're looking for good people that want to stay and grow here at Cirrus, and so we have on-the-job training. So so we just need to get people excited about joining and aware that we're here. And once we attract them, there's opportunities to grow and promote from within. So we're definitely in a growing phase and just struggling to get as many people hired, and then obviously want to keep them as well.
That's helpful. John, were you gonna? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that in healthcare, we have similar issues. I mean, there's a shortage of workers in every field, right? And including healthcare. The nice thing about healthcare is it's once people get in there, it's got such purpose. It's such a wonderful field, and every place has got such an important mission to keep people healthy. That people, once they get into it, I think that that's important to them, that they They've got purpose behind their job, and it's not going away. Unfortunately, it is a big part of our economy at 18% of GDP. It's too much, I recognize that, but it's an important part of our economy. People are, the demographics are shifting, and there will always be health issues. So this is a field where we need to be successful in recruiting people and getting more people in there, because if you're not healthy, you're going to have a hard time doing these other jobs that we've been talking about. So, and we'll continue to talk about. So I really view this as a very important field that we have to be successful on, because it's foundational for the entire rest of the economy.
Yeah, you're right. They're all related, aren't they? Tim, we've talked before about your health system and trying to convince those in the service industry who may have lost a job in hospitality come in and be an ambulance driver or do something else in healthcare. Have you seen some success there? What's working? What isn't as you look to recruit?
Well, we're just trying to be creative. We had a situation in which, being smaller, as a small critical access hospital, if you only got, and I know like a lot of other business too, if you only got 3-4 people in a certain department and all of a sudden 2 of them are out, you're in a real bind. And so like we had an example of, we had a number of our EMTs were out due to COVID, but we knew a number of people who had worked here in prior jobs or had switched to other jobs, but we went and hired them as drivers so that the EMTs could focus on the EMT work. And we just said, we just need some drivers. And some of that has worked pretty well. But we're just trying to be creative in a lot of different ways of how do we utilize people. And John is right. I think once we get people in, and if we can get them here, we have all these different openings. I think they do find it's something they're passionate about, but how do we get them into the door to get them exposed to it? Like right now in one area, there's 2,600 nursing. We also have a care center. There's 2,600 positions open statewide, and they're alone. So how do we attract them? That because there's a lot of skilled and people who can be really passionate about that, but how do we get them in the door? So we're trying to be creative in how we get them exposed to that industry.
Great, Dennis, I'll turn it over to you. I don't know if you want to guide the conversation with some questions too.
Yeah, sure. Appreciate it, Commissioner. Yeah, I'd be interested in, either from Dean Hughes or from President Galswick. We're seeing a lot of national conversation about declining enrollment in higher ed, overall, but particularly, hardest hit in our 2-year community and technical colleges. Just curious from either of your standpoints, kind of what are you doing? What are you seeing on campus? And what are you doing to, work to enroll new students as well as retain current students, particularly, I think, in this job market too?
I can kick us off, and then Terry, then if you want to jump in afterwards. So I think a couple of things that we're seeing. One, Commissioner Olson, I kind of laugh when you say, what are we doing on campus? Well, we're not. We are kind of 10% on campus-ish, if you will. And that's because about 90% of our courses are basically this modality. It's virtual. And so what we're gearing up for, which most people are, is yes, we're in the pandemic, but we're preparing for post-pandemic. And so it's making the phone calls, being intentional about recruitment strategies. So whether we are dropping off care packages, literally door to door, dropping them off, or whether we're making the phone calls at all levels. I make phone calls, and people are surprised that they get a phone call from the dean saying, hey, we recognize that you have not registered for this upcoming semester. And so we're doing things like that. The other piece is we are connecting with business and industry and really kind of engaging them so that you really are coupling what I say pedagogical practices and real world application. And so how are we opening up the door so that if we have a student that is seeking employment, but along with trying to pursue their educational journey, then can we work something out with the employer so that it's an earn and learn model, so to speak, and it could be used as an internship, an externship, or some type of work experience opportunity. But that's really what we're doing right now. We are possibly going on campus maybe 1 to 2 times, face to face. And so that's another way that if a student absolutely needs to come to campus, then that's another way for them to see somebody, keeping in mind social distancing and other safety precautions.
Thank you, Dean Hughes. Terry Galswick, Minnesota West. And in addition to what Dean Hughes had shared, I think it's important to recognize that our students remain struggling in the midst of this pandemic to balance the many dimensions of caring for not only their well-being, but the well-being of their families and in their communities. So they're balancing many different aspects of this pandemic. The college itself has also built out a series of services for their well-being, including virtual mental health services, advising services, and a number of other connecting points to assure that the students persist with their academic studies. Centered on that is the relationships between our faculty. It's absolutely remarkable what that trusted relationship means in regards to the retention of our students. And we use a model in the midst of this pandemic that's called a small response team that takes that information from those trusted relationships, and we reach out to our students in ways that try to provide for their well-being. What we are seeing in regards to declining enrollment is also somewhat predicated on very, very aggressive strategies by adjacent states. So when we look at the policies that we see in the states of South Dakota, North Dakota, and Iowa, we know that those state policies are aimed very intentionally at the talent of Southwest Minnesota. The Build South Dakota Scholarship is a $50 million fund available and targeted to talent in Southwest Minnesota to bring young folks in particular into that state and to study at their technical colleges. They study at the technical college, they simply work in the state for 3 years, and their education is free. And we all know what happens to young people when they stay in a community for 3 years. They find other young people, they establish roots, and they establish a family. We're seeing those same policy provisions present in the state of Iowa, with Governor Reynolds promoting a $27 million fund, very similar to Governor Walz, that really is about reskilling, upskilling, and retaining talent in the state of Iowa. So we're greatly appreciative for this conversation and this consideration, but we are seeing an outmigration of talent here in Southwest Minnesota because of the policies in adjacent states.
And President, thanks for highlighting that. In addition to investments like the one Governor Walz is putting out through the Workforce Stabilization Grant proposal, what else can we be doing to retain our students? I know you had shared with legislative committees the importance of some other programs, like the workforce development scholarships through the Minnesota state system. What else can we stand up, can we highlight to keep our students here?
The workforce development scholarships have been absolutely critical to the college and our communities. We believe education is the pathway to social and economic mobility, and we need to provide opportunity for students to stay, live, and work in Southwest Minnesota. Coupled with that is, of course, that portfolio of services, right, to meet students where they're at, to acknowledge the learning that has occurred within their workplaces, and to provide them appropriate credits for that learning. We also believe that there's opportunity to work with the underskilled and those that are looking to maybe change careers. We believe there's opportunity to work with our immigrant community. The Worthington community is rich with individuals that don't look like Terry. And it's absolutely powerful and remarkable what that community brings to our community and what their desires and passions and hopes are. Aligning state policy to encourage that talent to seek additional training and education in higher education through our 2-year technical colleges and our universities would be absolutely tremendous. What that looks like is somewhat tempered, of course, with some of the statuses of my neighbors, but there is real opportunity to lean into, in particular, the DACA students right now, and to provide additional opportunity for them to come into higher education.
Thank you for that. Commissioner Grove, if you don't mind, just one more I wanted to follow up with Dean Hughes, about something you said, Dean, related to earn while you learn opportunities and, on-the-job training opportunities. Seeing as all of us have been virtual for about a year now, and, it's been quite a shift, in particular for higher education. Do you think higher education has an opportunity to create a permanent shift towards, standing up more earn and learn programs, more virtual programs, do you think will ever look like we did a year ago?
Well, I hope we don't necessarily look like we did a year ago, but when you're looking at forward movement and upward mobility, so to speak, I think we'll see more earn and learn models because and President Galswick, hit it right on the head. We are dealing with students that are learning to balance. Just like we all had to learn to balance from remote working spaces to now virtual learning for yourself, and then distance learning if you have children. And so any opportunity that business and industry, along with the potential employee, can have as far as the earn and learn model is, if I can stay where I am and work in the confines of my home while still being able to take care of my family and still earn a livable wage, then I think that is definitely a future direction that we need to be considering. But then also the one thing that I'll also highlight that I don't think either one of us really talked about is that credit for prior learning. And so understanding that if you have X number of credits left to complete your degree, we're seeing that more and more that has been more of the inquiry. How can I complete my degree based off of the knowledge that I already have? And so that's another opportunity that I think that we're going to see going forward as we're coming out of this pandemic, is to really look at, can I give you credit for what you already have acquired and you've been able to prove that over this last year. So absolutely, I think that we're going to see some unique opportunities. And I always tell people that this pandemic is kind of a double-edged sword. It's opened up opportunities for things that we never thought that we'd be able to do. One of the programs that falls up under me is construction management. Who would have thought that you would actually do some of those practices online versus actually hands-on, so that's something, new and indifferent. And so I think we're going to continuously see, as the more and more that gets uncovered of opportunities that probably we didn't know existed, but now we have an opportunity to create. So think about job creation. I think we're going to see more of that.
That's great, thank you, and thanks for highlighting, opportunities like credit for prior learning. I mean, we do that well with our veterans and veterans benefits, but the more opportunities we have to extend that to all students and folks looking to train and retrain, the better. So I appreciate you highlighting that. Commissioner, can I turn it back over to you? Pass the baton.
Yeah, this is a great conversation. I think I'd love to hear from Jeff on tech and Sam on apprenticeship. Jeff, let's start with you. Obviously, one of the keys to ensuring our economy is prepared for the future is focusing on the industries that have a lot of growth ahead. And Mintuck's done a lot of interesting work on looking at the future of work and jobs in technology. As you think about possibilities for someone looking for a job to get a credential or some experience in tech or find a career in that industry, what comes to mind? What advice do you have? What thoughts do you have on our state system and on individual job seekers' opportunity there?
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. Like many of you, all of our member companies at Mintech are in a war for talent right now. The unemployment rate in the tech sector is very low. We are trying to find those coming out of the hospitality industry and so forth and reskilling them into technology positions. Just yesterday we hosted an event called Tech Talent Forum, and had over 350 talent acquisition professionals there sharing what they're doing in terms of how do we better inspire, hire, develop, and retain talent. And Mark, you mentioned how you're looking to hire differently at Red Wing, and I think that's a common phrase right now. And it's no longer looking at maybe needing that bachelor's degree for some jobs in IT that really don't require it. So looking at other credentials and so forth that could be appropriate. And companies realize that they have to really think differently in terms of the pools of talent they're going after. And going after more homegrown talent, underrepresented populations, historically overlooked talent pools, and figuring out how we can do that with an equity lens. The one thing that the pandemic has shown is the value of technology in our world today. Whether it is technology keeping our global economy afloat, the distance learning, keeping students on track, telemedicine, supporting public health. But technology doesn't happen without people, and talent matters. And Minnesota has a real crisis in front of it, I believe, in that we are not appropriately skilling our youth for the jobs that we need. We're not necessarily spending the way some of our neighboring states are. I look at, we've heard about Iowa and others that are, spending so much more in STEM education. And there was a very embarrassing study that came out in November from a group called code.org that had Minnesota ranked 50th out of 50 states in the percentage of high schools that offer a computer science curriculum. And we're not going to have anybody pursuing computer science in college if they don't have the exposure in high school. So we need to really think about, how are we investing in our future? How are we getting students equipped with the digital skills and the digital fluency that is going to allow them to succeed in the economy of the future? So we've got a lot of challenges ahead. I'm optimistic that our business community is going to rise to the challenge, and it's going to take some public-private partnerships to really make this happen.
Jeff, for the transitional worker, let's say you work at a hotel or you're a waiter, and the hospitality industry has been devastated. You might not have ever thought about technology. Maybe it seems kind of scary because, gosh, I don't know how to code, or I don't.
Yeah.
Seems kind of intimidating. Talk to us about how you would address someone who might be a little bit curious about the industry, but maybe a little bit scared, and what opportunities might be there.
Well, those customer-facing skills that a server or a bartender might have are actually very good in the world of IT. And, and IT isn't just about coding. It's not the back of the computer stuff only. It's, every company or organization is really a technology organization today. It's how are you applying technology? And so there's a lot of great programs, even in the Twin Cities. I look at some of the academies like Prime Digital Academy, the Software Guild, Creating IT Futures, Dream Core Tech, HackBright Academy. There's so many places where you can go and skill yourself in in-demand digital skills for the world of technology that will lead to a job. The average salary right now in IT in Minnesota is $92,000. Just in January, in the Twin Cities metro alone, there were 8,000 unique IT jobs posted in that month alone. It's very much in demand, and we don't have enough people to fill these roles, and we're competing in the healthcare space that doesn't have enough people, and so we need to think differently about skilling. And I could go on all day about where there's opportunities, Commissioner, but I feel like I've spent more of my time already on that.
No, it's exciting, and there are huge opportunities. And Minnesota is a state that cares about where it's ranked. And every time you hear 50 out of 50, that's motivation to change things. We haven't heard from Sam or Ann yet. I'd like to go to maybe Sam first, just to speak a little bit about apprenticeship. That's something you've been a big advocate for, and we know is a proven pathway to get people to jobs that matter. Talk about that and what you'd like to see happen there, maybe in the state, and maybe what the value of apprenticeship can be in finding jobs.
Well, thank you. And without a doubt, I mean, it's the same as the IT guy was saying. There's not as many computer classes in college and high schools anymore, but there are literally no construction training classes, very few. So these are things that we have to rebuild as well. And the apprenticeship programs that we're dealing with in the trades are really moving. I mean, we actually have many people in our apprenticeships, and it just keeps growing and growing. We do recruitment just like all of you all do. Today I spent the morning with a Q&A with Goodwill Easter Seals and talking to their students about carpentry and various aspects of carpentry. But one of the things I kept going back to is that you can get a college education after you go through our apprenticeship as well. You can get an associate's degree simply by taking maybe 6-7 more credits after you achieve your apprenticeship. And that's a big deal. A lot of people don't think about it while they're starting their career as a carpenter, but around 4, 5, 6 years into it, it just becomes something that, hey, I want to be an engineer now. Hey, I want to be a project manager now. and you can do these things. And it makes, if you ask me, there's the best project managers are ones who have worked out in the field. And no matter what you're doing, it's really nice to be able to see youth getting those opportunities. We go to high schools and we pull in people. We talk about what we have to offer, and a lot of the times it's simply hard work. A lot of people like that, I guess. Physical work, physical labor does seem to look well on some people. Others don't like it, but at the same time, it's just what I have to offer.
Yeah, thanks, Sam. A lot of pathways, and you've been a leader in this state in thinking about our state's workforce development system, how it works, how it could be better. I don't know, when you think about this topic of reskilling and as it relates to our state's workforce system and how we might do better, or what your perspective might be on advancing it, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think, a couple people have mentioned, Commissioner, you mentioned, and Jeff did as well, this whole idea of public-private partnerships and how that's so critical to what we're doing here. And so the 16 local workforce development boards are really a table where people can come together and ensure that the state and local and federal investments that are being made can really be aligned to meet the needs of the employers in our communities and ensure that everyone has the opportunities to access the jobs that employers have available. The local workforce development boards, 51% of our board membership by federal law needs to be employers. So really listening to employers in our communities, getting the information from those targeted sectors that do have opportunities and industries that have opportunities, and ensuring that the other parts of the workforce development system, like higher education, adult basic education, community-based organizations, are all working together to align those resources so that we are meeting those employer needs and providing the best opportunities that we can for people who are looking for career pathway opportunities. So I think, looking at the career force system, along with our partners in the broader workforce development system, how we're just being really critically focused on the impacts of having targeted investments that are meeting the needs of everyone involved to strengthen our communities and to make us competitive among other states who are making similar investments as well.
It's a great point you bring up other states. It is really one of the secrets of Minnesota's talent marketplace that we invest so deeply in our talent. And it's things like the Workforce Development Fund, which pull a small payroll tax from every employer to allow the system that Ann just described, train up workers for companies across the state. That is really unique to Minnesota. It's a very, very special thing we have in our state. I guess I'll open it up to the group, and Dennis, feel free to interject some questions here too. Obviously, I think one thing on our mind is just, again, given the uneven effect of this pandemic, how to look in different places for talent and how to, in some sense, encourage talent to think about new directions. I mean, one of our concerns is that right now we've got 6 times as more people on unemployment insurance than we usually do at this time of year. 313,000 people a week are pulling in a check. And there's about 120,000 job vacancies in the state. Now, it's not a completely inefficient, efficient system. You've got geography and barriers and things like that. But there are certainly a lot of people for whom you could get a job nearby that might even pay better than the one that you had before. But there's just that hesitation, whether it's a new field and that's scary, or you got childcare considerations because of distance learning, or you're nervous about the virus and in-person work. But those things start to fade as vaccine gets into people's arms and as kids get back to school. So I'm curious, just for anybody in the panel's thoughts on, if you're talking to a worker right now who might be on the fence of thinking about looking for work again and might need to look at a new industry, what's your advice for a job seeker, or what's your advice for any of us on the call who spend our days figuring out how to make those connections in ways that can lead to more employment?
Well, I'll say, John Pryor from Essentia, I think part of it is the psychology that, that's such a big leap. That's too much for me to do. And for instance, when you think of healthcare, what do you think of? You think of like the surgeon. Well, yeah, that's a big leap, getting a 4-year degree and then going to medical school for 4 years and then 6 years in a residency. I get that. But there are career ladders, and the the barriers to get into healthcare are actually very few and very small. And so you can, with 2 to 4 weeks, you could become a nursing assistant and make nearly $15 an hour. And then you put in, another 5 months and you can become a clinical medical assistant. And then you put another 6 months and you're an LPN. And then you put another 1 year and all of a sudden you're an RN, making, close to $100,000 a year. So I think this concept of career ladders, and recognizing that there is a shortage and that virtually every health system is very supportive of people going back to school and upskilling, the reskilling to get into it and then the upskilling to do these career ladders, I think is important. So allowing people to imagine, it's not the surgeon that you need to be thinking of. There's such a plethora, an immense number of jobs needed in healthcare, and that is an easy entry. And quite frankly, we were talking about people with their backgrounds, how it's applicable. The service industry, that is what healthcare is about. It's about service to patients, to our population, to keep them healthy. So those skills that people got in the service industry, they're exactly the skills that are applicable in healthcare.
I would say similarly in the world of IT right now, you think of the entry-level roles are often a help desk role, a service desk. Customer service is key. When you're trying to troubleshoot problems, it's inquiry, it's questions, it's customer service. Yes, there's a technical element of it, but it's very low. And you can get a help desk role with, just getting a credential or a certification like a CompTIA A+ certification that can be earned in 8 weeks. So that is the career pathway, the entry point. Doesn't require a college degree, and you can work your way up from there.
Other thoughts? What others have you find yourself saying to folks in the market when you're maybe nudge them to consider a career at your business? Pam, up in Duluth, when you're trying to get folks to come into Cirrus and maybe they haven't thought about plane manufacturing before, or maybe even knew that plane manufacturing existed in Minnesota. What are you? What's your pitch, and how do you tackle that?
Yeah, exactly. We appreciate this partnership too, because we're, trying to work with, as many schools and organizations to really just let people know that we are here in Duluth and we're growing, and kind of similar messages that I've heard today, that it can be daunting to think about working on an airplane, not having background and coming from some other type of industry or experience. So we're also promoting that message that you don't have to have that experience. You can start and learn drawings and how to assemble aircraft. We've got this on-the-job training program. We have people that will help and support you and introduce you to this. And once you get here, there's definitely avenues to be able to grow pretty quickly within Cirrus. And we've got additional kind of continuing education and tuition assistance programs and things like that as well, to kind of open your eyes, because we've got a variety of different opportunities here. So from manufacturing to supply chain or quality assurance or IT, or maybe going on to become an engineer. So some of those same things where we're encouraging that once you get in the door, there's opportunities to grow, and it doesn't have to be daunting, because we've got a training program here and we will help you succeed.
So if I may, I would like to interject in regards to the education sector. So take off the college president hat here and talk about the education sector, and just speak a little bit about growing our own, an opportunity that the college has embarked on with assistance of the McKnight Foundation, the Southwest Private Industry Council, the Southwest Initiative Foundation, and District 518 and SMSU, to really talk about a teacher preparation model that produces individuals that represent the students that they're teaching. And that is done in partnership and on-site in the Worthington community, but it involves very courageous conversations, and sometimes difficult conversations in regards to cultural competency and understanding. So applying an equity lens to a body of individuals who want to become teachers, and then encouraging the institution to move in a direction that supports them by building out partnerships, is absolutely critical. And we see the future of our school districts and the young people that are in our school districts. And creating that partnership is absolutely vital. So that's a little bit about the education sector and what we're trying to do to build out teachers of tomorrow.
And if I can just kind of add to what President said, in addition to that, I would say what I hear a lot of times is from business and industry, we don't know where to find the talent. And so sometimes you have to go outside of your four walls. And what I mean is who's closest to you. Who's closest to you typically looks like you. And so when you're trying to reach the BIPOC community, connect with associations that are culturally relevant. Connect with sororities, fraternities, and other cultural associations and organizations that would have the BIPOC community of which you would want to recruit from. But I would also say, on the other hand, too, is to make sure that your organization is ready to receive if you are trying to diversify. I mean, so that's the biggest thing. It's one thing to recruit BIPOC talent. It's another thing if you're not ready to receive BIPOC talent. And so I think that's the other thing, and that's kind of just what we've been saying at our institution. We just recently launched a Workforce Innovation and Experiential Learning Center, where we're working with business and industry, other workforce partners, so that we're exposing the students to an area that they want to potentially go into. And we're purposefully and intentionally gravitating to organizations that we know that want to diversify. We have almost a 50% student of color population. So we're definitely doing the match, if you will. And then it allows the business and industry partner to say, here is an area that I know you probably haven't thought about, but let me explain, what we have to offer. And then looking back at your PDs, look at your position descriptions. Are you not getting the talent, or is the talent hesitant to apply because they feel like they have to check the box of everything, not just the minimum, but the preferred as well? And do you have something that's in your minimum that could go down to your preferred qual?
One of the things I'm sorry, but I was just going to say, in relation to that, one of the things that we do at our apprenticeship program is when our students come in for the 1 week, 4 times a year, is that we pay them. We give them $200. All you got to do is show up on time and always have your tools, and you get a stipend. And it seems to really work out well for our retention.
This is Tim Rice. One of the things that we're trying to focus on, and I think that's really critical, is the culture of the organization, and just how do you further develop that work culture to be an attractive organization. And I do think that there is some work that I think businesses need to do, and we are experimenting right now with trying to better connect our employees to the customer. And basically, we're trying to eliminate a number of the barriers that exist between the organizational leadership and the employees themselves. And so we're just intrigued with the standpoint that we allow employees to be self-engaged in their lives, but are they really self-engaged at work? And I think we're creating all these barriers for our employees. So we're actually putting into place groups of employees who can actually pursue projects without any, they have all authority and do not have to go to administration or the CFO to work on a project for improving care or service. And what we're hoping is that if we relook at our culture and our concept and design, that we're going to be creating an environment where millennials and others are going to enjoy working in that structure. So that's something that we're working on right now.
These are all great points. I wonder, and Commissioner Olson and I have these discussions all the time. We don't for a second think government has all the tools that we wish we had to help. And I wonder, would love your candid take on what you wish your state government could do in this realm, or what you wish existed out there to make better connections or speed up pipelines or build progress that we don't have, or that you think we either have or should be doing better than we are. We'd love that feedback or ideas.
Well, I'm not sure I can tell you exactly what you need to have for success, but let me tell you of something that you've already got that you helped us with. So we had a virtual career fair for pharmacy technician roles in Duluth and Superior, and we enlisted your help, Deed's help, to get the word out on their social media channels And this was just recent. And we hired 7 pharmacy technicians. We hired 3 of them right on the spot. And they're actually starting March 15th. So this public-private partnership works. And DEED helps. They helped us. And I want to thank you for that.
That's great.
So I'm not going to be bashful.
Please don't. Yeah, we want the advice. We need it.
From an institutional perspective, given us some authority to be responsive at the regional level in regards to leveraging those state resources that you've secured on behalf of our talent, knowing that sometimes the data lags the actual realities in our communities, and providing us some flexibility then in pivoting and responding immediately to those needs would be beneficial. Sometimes we can get a little mired down in regards to the bureaucracies associated with some of those programs, and having a little bit more flexibility in leveraging those resources in our communities, and then holding us accountable for demonstrating back to the state how those resources were used and leveraged, I think would be very beneficial in greater Minnesota.
I would say enforcing some of the laws that are on the books today when it comes to construction, that would help level the playing field for us. That would be the biggest part that government could do.
That's helpful. I assume you're referring to things like prevailing wage or worker security and safety.
Fair Contractors Act.
Fair Contractors Act.
There's a few things.
Yeah.
I'll jump in here, Commissioner. First of all, I want to give kudos to you and Commissioner Olson just for listening and kind of getting the perspectives of those that are in the field. And I've seen you do that over and over again during your tenure thus far. So thank you for that. I would say on behalf of members of the Minnesota Technology Association, thinking differently of how we invest in STEM education. We have a workforce challenge right now, but it's only going to be exacerbated in the next 5 to 10 years unless we think differently about how we inspire more youth to think about careers in a technology field, support them on that journey, and then we need to make sure that our employers offer an inclusive and welcoming environment where they'll choose to remain and stay. So we've got a lot of challenges, but somebody mentioned teachers before. We don't have enough teachers to teach computer science and other STEM fields. They're not supported. We're trying to bring a lot of our employers into the classroom to help, but we also run into sometimes issues related to them being in the room teaching when they don't have a teacher's certificate. So I think there's a lot of things that we can think about what we do differently around helping our youth be fully prepared for the digital skills that are going to be required for the innovative jobs of the future.
Yeah, I'm really glad you bring students into this, Jeff, because the pipeline begins far earlier than just reskilling. It's about building that worker pipeline from the start. I know we have a couple of press on the line. Jen, I'll turn it over to you in case the press have any questions for any of our panelists.
Yeah, Anthony or Kavita, do you have any questions that you want to ask anyone here today? If so, you can go ahead and unmute yourself.
Well, I know we're about to wrap. Any final thoughts, any issues from our panelists that we didn't address in this conversation that you want to raise up for the group?
Commissioner Grove, one thing I would like to say, and this is also a commendation to many of the state agencies during this time of the pandemic, for those of us who are receiving state and federal funds, the advocacy that the state agencies have done to listen to us about what waivers might be needed from state and federal regulations that have inhibited us from being able to serve our communities, during the pandemic and otherwise, and really looking at some of those waivers that maybe were successful in helping us break down some barriers to meeting the needs of our residents, and looking which ones might be worthwhile of extending as we're in recovery mode. I think that, to Jeff's point, the fact that the administration is really listening to communities and what's needed and trying to kind of snowplow some of those barriers out of our way when you can has been really helpful, and I hope to continue those conversations into the future.
Commissioners, I would just like to advocate for one other consideration, and that is in regards to our talent pipeline, working with our K through 12 school districts to look at ways that allow us to take the context of learning and place it in equivalency in regards to documenting the learning. And you're talking to a recovering math teacher, but also a cabinet builder. And I will say that some of the skills that I learned in cabinet building transition over into the world of mathematics, and being able to capture that and apply that to graduation and allow our students to experience that and build out that pipeline of talent would be absolutely a game changer for this state. And so working with our school districts and understanding how to do that and how to hold ourselves accountable for that, I think would be very important for Minnesota.
Yeah, it's a great point, Terry, and I think, CTE as a whole field in our high schools is something that needs a ton of more investment. We've seen shop classes on the decline, and we have a new way of doing this now. We just need to invest more in it. So, Dennis, over to you for some final thoughts.
Yeah, thanks, Commissioner. I just really appreciate, the last couple of panelists that shared, not only thinking about kind of what's needed right now in business and industry, we're really connecting it to, our young ones that are coming up and building that talent pipeline and what we need to put in place. And, I wholeheartedly agree. I'll just let folks know on the call here. I mean, these are conversations that Commissioner Grove and I have not only together, but also with other colleagues, like Commissioner Ricker at the Department of Education. And, we are really committed to, making sure that we're serving our students as well. And, talking about ways to recruit and retain teachers, particularly teachers of color and American Indian teachers. And I really thank you for highlighting those in this conversation, because everything is so interconnected. So appreciate those comments. Thanks, Commissioner. Thanks, everyone.
Great. Well, thanks, Commissioner Olson, and thank you all for joining us. Just want to remind our viewers that we have launched a new platform that has a whole set of one-stop shop resources for finding a new job in the state and looking at other reskilling opportunities it might take to get there, whether that's on the job training or a short course or beyond. So that URL is careerforcemn.com/goodjobsnow. And thanks for joining us today. Really grateful to all of our panelists for taking the time for a really useful discussion. We're taking a lot of notes as always. And this is something Minnesota have to work together on in the coming months, because COVID or no, our economy is changing rapidly, and making the most efficient system possible to help businesses like the ones you've heard from today and beyond have great pipelines of talents and get Minnesotans into family-sustaining jobs is really the top priority of the governor, lieutenant governor, as it relates to our economy. So thanks for joining us. Have a great rest of your Friday, and we'll talk again soon, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thanks again. Bye-bye.